Call this meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Adam Sarnoski.
Here.
John Smalley.
Here.
Debbie Hamilton.
Here.
Larry Whitaker. Michelle Sumner.
Here.
Lisa Woods.
Here.
And Gary Daigle is excused.
Introduction of media. Do I have any media here this evening? Doesn't look like it. Anyone wishing to speak before the agency tonight on any subject matter will need to fill out a speaker form and turn it into the recorder, which is Bo up here. Forms are available on the sign-in table in the back of the room. Please turn your cell phones off or silence them, please. Announcement for the Zoom attendees. If you're joining tonight's meeting via Zoom, you will automatically be muted upon entry, and you'll need to identify yourself if your full name is not already attached to the device being used. You will be unable to unmute yourself. If you wish to speak, use the raise your hand feature. To use it, click on the reactions icon at the bottom of your screen and click on the image of a hand. Public comment. The purpose of public comment period is to allow citizens to present information or raise issues. A time limit of 3 minutes per citizen shall apply. All citizens must come up to the microphone. Do we have any for them for urban renewal? Okay, consent agenda, the March 10th, 2025 minutes. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve. I second for the March 10th. I second.
Thank you. To approve the consent agenda as presented. Any discussion? No, vote please.
Adam Sarnoski.
Aye.
John Smalley.
Aye.
Debbie Hamilton.
Aye.
Michelle Sumner.
Aye.
Lisa Woods.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Agency business, grant application approvals. For, what is that?
These things.
116 West Central Avenue, a facade improvement. Staff report, please.
Good evening, Mayor and agency members, Braden Paderas, Community Development. The Urban Renewal Agency is being asked to approve a grant funding request received for 116 West Central Avenue. The subject lot is within the downtown area, identified as tax lot 9400 in section 17 DC of Township 25 South, Range 5 West, with a property ID number of R56184. We've received a grant application for the downtown facade improvements. The applicant submitted a request for $32,500. Based on the lineal frontage of his business, the application qualifies for $25,000. At the Urban Renewal Task Force meeting held March 20th, 2025, the Urban Renewal Task Force made a recommendation to staff to approve the grant application in the amount of $25,000. Your options are to approve the grant application or to deny it. And your suggested motion is to approve it.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
This property is right across the street from the spot to the Lottie Fitness.
I make a motion to approve the grant application in the amount of $25,000 for facade improvements at 116 West Central Avenue.
Second?
What are they doing with it?
They're just gonna do some facade improvements. In your application was kind of his drawing of the improvements he intends to make. It's a pretty straightforward, just facade improvement. The gentleman that purchased the property is from out of town, so he's new to our town and plans on sprucing it up and possibly renting it out or occupying it himself.
I thought the application stated that he was going to be selling construction services at the building.
He's a contractor himself.
So it's the contract. He's not putting a contracting business in the business.
I do not know exactly what his end result as far as who's gonna be in that building. We asked him what his intentions were, and it was, I think, tenancy, and if that wasn't a possibility, possibly locating there himself.
He wants the building occupied in any way.
Occupying for commercial space or residential as well. Because that's a two-story building with the the apartments above it, correct?
But this is only used for the facade outside, right?
Yes, just facade improvements.
Okay. We have a motion and second to approve the grant application for 116 West Central Avenue in the amount of $25,000, each as presented. Discussion, anybody? Vote please.
Adam Sarnoski.
Aye.
Sean Smalley.
Aye.
Debbie Hamilton,
Aye.
Larry Whitaker,
Aye.
Michelle Sumner,
Aye.
Lisa Woods.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, with no other items on the agenda, this meeting is adjourned.
I'll stand for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Counselor Sarnoski.
Here.
Counselor Smalley.
Here.
Counselor Hamilton,
Here.
Counselor Whitaker,
Here.
Counselor Woods,
Here.
Counselor Daigle is excused, and Mayor Sumner.
Introduction of media. Do I have any media present? Anyone wishing to speak before city council tonight on any subject matter will need to fill out a speaker form and turn it into the recorder. Forms are available on the sign-in table in the back of the room. Please turn cell phones off or silence them during the meeting. Does anyone have any speaker forms that have not turned them in? Okay. Announcement for Zoom attendees. If you're joining tonight's meeting via Zoom, you will automatically be muted upon entry, and you'll need to identify yourself if your full name is not already attached to the device being used. You will be unable to unmute yourself. Public comments will only be taken if prior notification was given to the city recorder. Public comment. The purpose of this public comment period is to allow citizens to present information or raise issues regarding agenda items only. There will be time at the end of the meeting for citizens to speak about off-agenda items. A time limit of 3 minutes per citizen shall apply. All citizens must come up to the microphone. Public comment is a time for the council to hear about the thoughts or concerns of the community. It is not a time for a dialogue or a back and forth with the council or city staff. Other than asking possible clarifying questions, neither the council nor staff will typically reply to specific comments or questions raised by members of the public. To the extent a response is necessary, the council will have city staff do their best to do so at or before the next meeting. Although such timeframes are not always possible to be met. The council appreciates the time taken by the public to provide comments and desires to hear your thoughts and concerns. However, to be able to run our meetings efficiently and to protect the rights of all involved, the city needs to utilize this time as a period of receiving rather than providing information. And thank you for your understanding. I have one public comment for Oak Street. Brett?
Oh. I'm sure comment, that's not on the agenda.
Not on the agenda, is it?
No.
There's,
Save me for last.
Well, we did have one thing about Oak Street, on it, right?
the design and construction management.
Oh, I see.
You can do it if you want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, it's a horrible thing.
Just-
Where's your helmet? It's right up there with kidney stones. Anyway, I'm Brent Hunsaker, resident of beautiful settlement here. Just want to make a comment about the Oak Street project out here. I understand privacy, the environment, other concerns, they're important to every single one of us. Change can be difficult. In our previous home, we were in a similar situation living next to a sagebrush covered hillside. We grew comfortable with the idea that nothing would ever change. However, change was inevitable, and the announcement of a 200-home development came as a shock to us. I was concerned about the impact from construction. I worried about the type of the people who would move in, so I decided to oppose the project. I reviewed zoning laws, attended city meetings, rallied neighbors, and voiced strong opposition. Despite the developer and the city providing answers, all I could think about was losing my privacy. The project was approved, homes were built, people moved in, and I grumbled. Then one hot summer day, a brush fire was started by a homeless man. Amazingly, the new homeowner sprang into action and extinguished the fire before the fire department even got there. The next day, I stopped at the corner store. People there were discussing the heroes on the hill. The store owner mentioned that without the new residents, the store might not still be in business. A city councilman overhearing the conversation pointed out that the new homes were generating improved tax revenue, supporting the fire and the police department. He explained that inflation outpaces city revenue. One way to raise funds is to build homes and attract new businesses. I realized that these new residents had likely saved my home from burning down and kept my taxes from going up. They were contributing to the community, eating at local restaurants and purchasing goods and services. A voice from behind the councilman spoke up. I live in the new neighborhood. Anyone want to join me for a cup of coffee? Alex turned out to be a great guy who worked in town, loved the area, had kids in schools, and enjoyed fishing. Fishing. I love the small town feel. However, Oregon's lack of a sales tax limits how a city can raise funds to provide services. While the city is investing in this project, it will generate never-ending tax revenue. New residents will have jobs, spend money locally, enroll their kids in schools, attend our churches, help in emergencies, and maybe become our friends. Everyone has a right to voice concerns and challenge projects. Our elected leaders are responsible for addressing those concerns. I attend most every single city council meeting, don't I? Yeah, I do. I promise to take action if I sense any kind of deceit whatsoever. I believe the city is working in our best interests. And lastly, our city motto is settle in the city of opportunity. I'd like to see us continue that spirit. Thank you.
Thank you.
3 minutes?
3 minutes.
Okay, it took you 3 minutes to get to the microphone, so.
Oh, Jerry.
No, that doesn't count.
Okay, on to consent agenda. We have a motion for the March 10th, 2025 minutes. I'm sorry about that. We have all three. And the extension of the IGA with Douglas County for inmate housing and the IGA with Douglas County for communication services.
Well, $20.
Yes, as
That move that we accept March 10th, the 2025 meeting minutes. The extension of the IGA inmate housing and the IGA of Douglas County for communication services.
a motion and a second. Any discussion? Vote.
Counselor Sarnoski.
Yes.
Counselor Smalley.
Aye.
Counselor Hamilton.
Aye.
Counselor Whitaker.
Aye.
Counselor Woods.
Aye.
Mayor Summer.
Aye.
Motion carries.
On to public hearing for public safety support fee, staff report, please, chief.
Madam, I want to interject something before we go to the public hearing. So one of my strengths as city manager is get involved at all levels of it, and I participate. I want to upfront apologize for two mistakes in this process that are on me. One is in the actual enabling document itself, where we talk about declaring an emergency. I took all that away from the chief and rewrote it, and I did not fix that, and I apologize, so he's gonna fix it. The other piece of it is that the largest main body of the ordinance has to be read out loud. Again, that is my error for jumping in and saying, hey, I'll help, I'll do it, and as a result, I missed that. So I accept responsibility. I apologize to everybody who's gonna have to listen to a 9-minute verbal disclosure of the ordinance itself.
So just reiterating, out of section 2, the part that says the council declares an emergency and therefore this order shall take effect, that line is to be.
He's got a new line for it.
Okay,
Sorry, chief.
Okay. That's okay.
I rewrote his staff report too, so I take responsibility.
Good evening, Mayor, councilors. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. I'm Troy Mills, the Chief of Police. I'm here to provide a little background and context regarding the proposed public safety fee. As many of you know, the local government, including Sutherland, have long relied on property tax revenue to fund essential services like police, fire, and emergency medical response. These services are critical to maintaining the safety, stability, and quality of life in our community. However, Oregon's property tax system was dramatically altered by the passage of Measure 5 in 1990 and Measure 50 in 1997. These measures changed how property taxes are assessed, capping annual growth at 3% and disconnecting property tax revenue from real market trends and inflation. Since then, cities across the state have experienced what is known as compression, a slow but steady erosion of available funding. Today, 65% of Oregon cities have been impacted, with more than 31.4 million in lost revenue annually statewide. Sutherland is now facing the full impact of these limitations. Our ability to maintain core public safety services at current levels are at risk. In March of 2024, anticipating future budget shortfalls, I formed the Police Chiefs Advisory Committee to evaluate funding options for public safety. In March of this year, we expanded by creating a work crew called the Public Safety Task Force, which included members of City Council, the Budget Committee, and community stakeholders. After months of discussions, evaluations, and research, including comparisons with over 60 other Oregon cities who have implemented similar fees, the task force concluded that a public safety utility fee is the most sustainable and effective long-term solution for Sutherland. This proposed fee would provide a dedicated and reliable resource revenue for public safety, reduce dependency on general funds for critical services, help cover operational costs, staffing, equipment, and future needs, and appear as separate line items for transparency on utility billing. We know no one enjoys paying new fees, but the alternative is cutting services. The reality is that property tax growth is no longer keeping up with the cost providing essential public safety. Without new funding, Sutherland risks the reduced service levels, longer emergency response time, and delayed investments in equipment and staffing. The proposed ordinance reflects the careful work of the Public Safety Task Force. It outlines what the fee can be used for, how it will be managed, and how it can be adjusted over time. We are asking the council tonight to support this ordinance and help secure the stable future funding of public safety in Sutherland. I appreciate the chance to present this tonight, and I want to thank all the community members, some are here tonight, for their time and for their effort. And I would be happy to answer any questions that the council may have.
Curious, Chief, how much does it cost us to cover Oakland?
How much does it cost to cover?
Yeah.
It's-
Oakland, are we raising the rates or do we charge? Oakland?
We did, and we raised
raise the
rates.
rates.
Yeah, we raised their rates on an annual cost of living increase.
Okay, so this is something we change every year, so it's.
Correct.
Okay.
will you be presenting how much you're asking?
Yeah, once we get to the reading, it's proposed from the task force at $9, which $6 will go to to police specifically, and $3 will go to fire specifically. And that will cover the operations, the equipment, and personnel.
And that's designated only for that.
It only can be spent by ordinance on specifically public safety. It doesn't go into the general fund. It can't be used for anything else. It's specifically designed for this.
And is this evaluated on like a yearly basis?
The council has the option of every year going over it and seeing if we need to increase it or decrease it.
This can be for residences and businesses alike, everybody pays.
Everybody pays. Everybody uses the services.
Yeah.
If not now, they will.
Yeah, sure.
Well, I don't like the idea of implementing a fee without public input. I think it should be something that the public should have a vote on.
We're having an open public hearing. Right now.
But I mean, this is something that should be tied to an election. That's just my opinion. I get it. I understand it. I know where we are. And I appreciate you guys not being the police department that funds yourself for citation. The other one's awesome that way. If we wanted to, we could be Oak Ridge with our 20-mile-an-hour speed limit.
You very well could be, yes.
I've said that for years and years.
I think for having good protection and good services, the price of a cheeseburger is well worth it.
Yeah.
I totally agree.
Yeah,
And
and
giving up a latte is totally worth having the
And it's-
services that we have. or
And it's the amount of money technology costs nowadays.
Yeah, I know where you guys are with the.
You know, and it's the lawsuits nowadays. It used to be, you know, they used to say, you know, excuse the term, but a bullet cost $1 million.
Yeah.
And now you guys will pay 10 million or 15 million. It's so astronomical right now. That's one of the things. And one of the things that prevents that and mitigates that or those lawsuits is the use of that technology to offset having to spend money for more and more and more officers. Because use of that technology reduces our time for investigations.
Well, and technology comes with training.
It does.
And
Yes.
this is the situation we were in 15 years ago with the fire department when
Right.
we couldn't cover the training for our firefighters and we had to outsource. So, you know, our options are either funded somehow or
Right.
shutting down or outsourcing. I get it. I know where we are. I just don't like the idea.
Can you pull your mic down so people can hear you?
I just don't like the idea of us being the one implementing the fee. This is something, to me, this is something that the public should have an input on.
Well, I think that's something that the whole council should be voting on.
Yeah.
Okay, does anyone else have any questions for the chief before we open up for public hearing? At this point, we'll open up public hearing. And I have 2 public comments during this hearing. One, Gail Daniel.
So I hate public speaking, so this means a lot to me for, obviously, since I got up here. I was lucky enough to become a recent member of a volunteer on the budget committee, and as such, I was able to listen to the chief present information regarding this ordinance. I am 1,000% in favor of it. I think that he has been very circumspect and not asking for money until the time and place that he needed it. And I think he's shown that. I think I think any of us who would have a house fire or our neighbor's house catches on fire and we need the fire department, or has an accident and we need the police, or some family disturbance and we need the police, that's the time people wish they had police. So I don't want to see us get to the point where things are critical and we're out of luck, or we have to wait for Douglas County to show up or somebody else. You know, it's our responsibility, it's our town, and we love it here. My husband and I have been citizens here for a little over 3 years now, and we wouldn't choose anywhere else to live. I wholly support this ordinance, and I would ask the council to take that into consideration. The people I've spoken to, my neighbors and friends, are in agreement. Let's keep our town this way. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Daniel.
Good evening. My name's Dave Daniel. That was my wife that just spoke before me, Gail. We bought his house here 3 years ago and we love the area. We really do. And part of that, part of my reason is we want to support something like this public safety levy. Because we've been in law enforcement for a lot of years. In 2007, I retired from Josephine County as our elected sheriff. And I went through this several times, going through public safety levies and trying to get things like that passed. And so there's stuff that I have that I know that I think would help citizens group that if you form to back this levy, and I would love to be involved in it. I think Gail would too. Any questions? Don't ask me anything technical, I wouldn't know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, if you wouldn't mind too, I'd like to have Chief Sardi from Winston come up and just kind of give some context. They actually have one implemented in Winston. And so he'd be a good resource to ask a couple questions too as well.
Could you introduce members of the task force that are here? So we could, because I see some of them, I see this, Jeff's daughter right there.
Yeah, Abigail.
Abigail.
Let's have them stand up. I thought he has names.
You're gonna make me remember all their names too.
Is anyone here that was on the task force would you like to stand?
Abigail and Gail.
Oh, Renee. Yeah.
Renee.
Sharon.
Sharon. Yeah, thank you guys.
Great, thank you all.
Thank you very
Spent a lot of time on this.
Soon either.
Right. Chief, like that?
Normally when I call this chief, I have to bring the mic down. Sheriff or Gary at Roseburg,
I do too.
but I'm taller than the chief at in Myrtle Creek. Anyways, good afternoon, Mayor, Council, community members. I'm just here to support the chief. We started our public safety fee, I want to say it's been 4 years, maybe. And Winston, if everyone remembers, it was in the paper where literally our car doors were falling off our cars. And people were like, really? And I'm like, yeah, no, really. It was like the Dukes of Hazzard. They literally fell off the cars and they were just worn out. And Winston is not a rich community. It's actually fairly in the lower end of money wise for the community area. And we were trying to figure out an angle or a way to sustain police services. And again, we use all the tax dollars. Everyone knows law enforcement spends money, they don't make it, right? And so they were trying to figure out how to make it to where we can sustain our budget, but have money set aside to purchase vehicles and equipment therein. And the pricing of vehicles has just gone through the roof. I mean, $84,000 for a car is insane to me. And you know, that's what we paid on the last 2 cars I ordered, 84 grand. And you know, when I started buying cars, it was $27,000. So there's something to be said about the public safety fee. And I guess the point I'm getting at is that it created a stable funding platform for us. Our former manager kind of set it up, and we've been running really good with it. We had initially, so what we did a survey to find, we basically tried to figure out what were the needs of the police department for equipment and how much do we need to get from that. So me and the former manager, Mark Bauer, we sat down, we kind of looked at it and we started pricing out things, trying to figure out what the police department needs are. And it was strictly vehicles and equipment therein. So we initiated a $3 public safety fee. The council did vote it in. What was very, very crazy is the audience. It was packed, right? And normally, as the chief will tell you, when it's packed in the council chambers, it's what did we do wrong, right? What am I coming at? What's coming at me? And it was exactly the opposite. Most of the community members in there were like, listen, and I heard someone say something about a coffee, literally said, I won't buy a coffee this month. If it means that we get good police services and we have equipment in our vehicles for our police officers, I won't buy a coffee. And I was actually, it gave me goosebumps. I was like, wow, we're doing something right. I mean, our community members are liking what we're giving and giving a good service. That's a good thing. And so the $3 was initiated, and it created $97,000 for the city of Winston. And so when we initiated that, cars were just under about $48,000. So I'm thinking, yes, I can get 2 cars out of the deal. Guess what? Inflation, everything went up. So now we're at $84,000 a car. And so in the ordinance, we also had a $5 where they were going to increase at $5 and then an additional $5 the following year. So we increased at $5 and the council was like, okay, I don't know how this is going to go, but they did. So it was $8 total. Council chamber's full again. I'm like, it's not good. Because I know that there's going to be a buyback somewhere, right? I pay taxes too. And there's a point, where's that crossroads at? Total support from the community again, $8. I was shocked, flabbergasted. I actually went to my staff and told them, you guys are doing something good, because the people in the community supported that again. It was well needed. It brought in about $269,000. You know, my manager was here a couple of meetings ago. I was sick, and it's doing the budget. I'm just now finishing up our budget right now, and having those dollars in there to utilize for purchasing of vehicles has been a 10. I actually talked to the manager about where we're going to be at with our negotiations with our officers. They all got increases again, and those dollars are going to be helping offset some of those costs. But if it's more than what I need, I'm totally game to reduce the funding for it. And I've told him that, is that if we have more dollars, I want to get the dollars that we need to fund the department. I don't want to take any more. It's not made to be, you know, a pool of money. That's not what it's about for us. It's about to use the dollars that are there to fund the police department, do the job that the community is asking us to do. So that's what we're doing. And again, we're going to reevaluate that probably by June, after I get everything kind of organized, to see where we're at on funding and what the new costs are for the officers, because they just did their contract and it's huge. And so after we see where we're at, we'll reevaluate. And I did not push the council. Actually, I asked the manager not to do the additional 5 and to hold off on it. Because I think at that point we're going to get a bite. So hold off on it. Let's evaluate where we're at and move forward. In a nutshell, I support, I think this is awesome. If you guys do this, it's going to give you a place to keep your department running and supporting your community. And that's what it's all about. So, and if you have the verbiage in there to deal with police cars and equipment therein, like for us, then it can't change unless the legislative body or council changes that. So it's stuck there. So they can't pull it for say, oh, now, you know, it happened to Myrtle Creek where they pulled funding from his general fund to offset the costs of the public safety fee. That's not right. The citizens don't know any better, right? They're just saying, hey, you got all this money. It's on the back of the law enforcement agency, but yet the council then removes it, or the manager removes it and puts it somewhere else. That's not okay. So the verbiage is very, very important to be in there. Any questions? I ramble. I'm Italian, so I ramble on. Any questions? Good to go?
Thank
All right.
you.
You're welcome. Yep.
Anyone else have anything they'd like to say? Before I close public hearing. Okay. This time we'll close the public hearing. And then we're gonna have the first reading of the ordinance, public safety support fee.
So as Jerry alluded to, in section 2, the verbiage will be read off, but it will be changing to after second reading this ordinance shall take effect upon approval by the council and mayor after second reading at the next regularly scheduled council meeting.
Ordinance number 1100, an ordinance of the city of Sutherland, Oregon, adding chapter 3.18 to the Sutherland Municipal Code titled Public Safety Fee. Whereas the city of Sutherland operates police and fire departments, and whereas both departments require additional revenue to fund adequate operations, and whereas both departments own, operate, and maintain a fleet of vehicles to provide public safety services to the community, and whereas department vehicles need periodic replacement, and whereas the city desires a long-term funding mechanism to replace public safety vehicles before they become unsafe to operate, and whereas the city further desires a long-term funding mechanism to support general operations of both departments in order to provide adequate services, and whereas the city recognizes that each property connected to the city's utility system is benefited by and receives direct and indirect services from both departments, and whereas the city believes that a public safety fee charged to utility customers in exchange for such services is in the best interest of the community and is necessary to ensure ongoing public health and safety. Now, therefore, the city of Sutherland ordains as follows. Section 1, Chapter 3.18 is hereby added to the Sutherland Municipal Code as set forth in Exhibit A, Section 2. In order to provide adequate funding for public safety services, which needed immediately in order to protect the public welfare, health, and safety, the council declares an emergency, and therefore this ordinance shall take effect upon approval by the council and mayor. Passed by the council this day of blank, 2025. Approved by the mayor this day of blank, 2025. Attest, Mayor Michelle Sumner. City Recorder, Bo Hart, Exhibit A, 3.18010. Purpose, 3.18020. Definitions, 3.18030. Imposition of public safety fee, 3.1804. Dedication of funds, 3.18050. Collection, 3.1806. Program administration, 3.18070. Appeal procedures and financial hardship, 3.1808. Enforcement, 3.1809. Attorney fees, 3.18010. Purpose, A. The principal purpose of this chapter is to safeguard, facilitate, and encourage the health, safety, and welfare of the residents and businesses of the city of Sutherland. The council finds that a continuous and consistent public safety fee program provides a multitude of economic and social benefits to the public, including but not limited to: 1. Improved response to disaster and emergency situations. 2. Increased police protection. 3. Prevention of crime. 4. Enhanced protection of property. 5. Promotion of business and industry. 6. Promotion of community spirit and growth. B. It is the intent of this chapter to provide a funding mechanism to help pay for the benefits conferred on city residents and businesses by the imposition of an adequate program of public safety. C. The structure of this public safety fee enacted in this chapter is intended to be a surcharge for services provided within the city limits. However, it is not intended to provide full funding for the police or fire department. In the event that public safety fee revenues collected are insufficient to properly operate the police or fire department, additional funding may be allocated by the city council from other non-dedicated city funds, provided, however, the city council may direct the reimbursement of such other non-dedicated city funds if additional public safety fee revenues are collected. 3.18020 definitions. When not clearly otherwise indicated by the context, the following words and phrases as used in this chapter have the following meanings. A. Developed property means a parcel or portion of real property on which an improvement exists. Improvement on developed property includes, but is not limited to, buildings, parking lots, and outside storage. B. Non-residential unit means a non-residential structure, which is used primarily for a business or ordinance number. 1100 commercial enterprise and/or which provides facilities for one or more businesses, including, but not limited to, permanent provisions for access to the public. Each distinct business facility is considered as a separate non-residential unit. C. Person means a natural person, unincorporated association, tenancy in common, partnership, corporation, limited liability company, cooperative, trust, any governmental agency, including the state of Oregon, but excluding the city of Sutherland, and other entity in law or fact. D. Residential unit means a residential structure which provides complete living facilities for one or more persons, including, but not limited to, permanent provisions for living, sleeping, and sanitation. A home business in a residential zone will be regarded only as a residential unit, not as a non-residential unit. An ancillary unit on a single-family parcel shall be considered as a separate residential unit. Transient lodging shall not be considered as a residential unit, provided that any recreational vehicle staying longer than 30 days shall not be considered as transient lodgings. E. Responsible party means the person owing the public safety fee. Unless another responsible party has agreed in writing to pay the public safety fee, and a copy of that writing is filed with the city, the person S paying the city's utility charges is the responsible party. If there is no service to or billing for the developed property, or if service or billing has been discontinued, the responsible party is the person UX having the right to occupy the property. 3.18030. Imposition of public safety fee. A. There is hereby created a public safety fee to accomplish the above stated purposes. B. The public safety fee is hereby imposed as a monthly fee on all developed properties located within the city in the following amounts. 1. Police vehicles, operations, and equipment, $6. 2. Fire department vehicles, operations, and equipment, $3. Total, $9. C. Each residential and non-residential unit on any developed property located in the city shall pay a separate public safety fee. D. Collection of the public safety fee for each developed property shall be made by a monthly charge, which shall commence on the first day of May, 2025. Billing shall be as a line item on the city service bill unless otherwise specified below. E. Annually, as part of the budget review process or through the city council's periodic budget review, a determination shall be made whether making an adjustment to the fee would be appropriate or not. The city council may make future adjustments to one or both of the public safety fee amounts by resolution. F. Except as the fees may be adjusted under Section D, the obligation to pay a public safety fee arises when a responsible party uses or otherwise benefits from police or fire protection services. It is presumed that police and fire protection services are used, and that a benefit arises whenever the subject real property is a developed property. G. Undeveloped properties shall not be charged a public safety fee. 3.1804. Dedication of funds. All public safety fee revenues collected by the city shall be distinctly and clearly noted in both the revenue and expenditure sections of the city budget and shall be used for the replacement of vehicles and other associated police or fire equipment and other costs incidental thereto, and for general police and fire department operations, and for no other purpose, in order to help provide for a safe, well-functioning public safety program. The fees paid and collected by virtue of this chapter shall not be used for general or other governmental or proprietary purposes of the city. 3.18050, collection. A, public safety fees shall be collected monthly on the city service bill per section. 3.18.030. B, in the event a developed property is not served by a domestic water meter or sewer hookup, or if water and sewer service is discontinued, the public safety fee shall be billed to the persons having the right to occupy the property. C, a request for sewer service, a building permit, or the occupancy of an unserved building will automatically initiate appropriate billing for the public safety fee. D, there shall be no charge for undeveloped property until such time as any permits are issued for occupancy of that property. E, the imposition of fees shall be calculated on the basis of the number of units supported, without regard to the number of water meters serving that property. F, a late charge shall be attached to any public safety fee not received within 30 days of billing. The council will set the amount of such charge by resolution. G, notwithstanding anything to the contrary, if the public safety fee is not paid for a period of 3 months, the fee with any attendant late fees may take all steps necessary to collect the fee from the responsible party. 3.1806, program administration. Except as provided below, the city manager shall be responsible for the administration of the public safety fee. A, fees under this chapter will be collected by the appropriate staff at the city. B, the city manager is authorized and directed to review the operation of this chapter and, where appropriate, recommend changes thereto in the form of administrative procedures for adoption by the city council by resolution. Such procedures, if adopted by the council, shall be given full force and effect, and unless clearly inconsistent with this chapter, shall apply uniformly throughout the city. 3.18070, appeal procedures and financial hardship. A, any responsible party who disputes any interpretation given by the city as to property classification as a developer property under this chapter may appeal such interpretation pursuant to section 2.0/9.030 of this code. If the appeal is successful, relief will be granted by reassignment to a more appropriate billing category. In such instances, reimbursement will be given for any overpayment, retroactive to the filing date of the appeal. Factors to be taken into consideration include, but are not limited to, availability of more accurate information, equity relative to billing classifications assigned to other developments of a similar nature, changed circumstances, and situations uniquely affecting the party filing the appeal. B, any responsible party may claim a financial hardship. The city manager is authorized to determine financial hardship on a case-by-case situation under guidelines submitted by the finance manager to and approved by the city council. The city manager shall conduct an annual review of all approved hardship cases to determine validity for continuance. The city manager's determination regarding financial hardship may be appealed pursuant to section 2.0/9.030 of this code. Seal, there will be an initial filing fee, which the council shall set by resolution for any appeal made under this section. These fees are fully refundable should the appellant adequately justify and secure the requested change or relief based on financial necessity. 3.1808, enforcement. A, in the event funds received from city service billings are inadequate to satisfy in full all of the monthly charges, credit shall be given first to the police public safety fee, second to fire public safety fee, third to any non-sewer or non-water charges, fourth to the sewer service charges, and fifth to the water charge. B, notwithstanding any provision herein to the contrary, the city may institute any necessary legal proceedings to enforce the provisions of this chapter, including but not limited to injunctive relief and collection of charges owing. The city's enforcement rights shall be cumulative. 3.1809, attorney fees. In any action brought by the city to enforce its rights under this chapter, the court shall award attorney's fees to the city if the city is the prevailing party.
Thank you. All right, everybody's still awake. All right, so after that reading, do I have a motion to approve the first reading and listening of the public safety support fee?
Make a motion to approve the first reading of motion.
Public safety support.
Yes, I'm looking for the.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I just want to point out again, as Chief Scardy pointed out, Winston is paying $8 a month and it goes directly to the police department. We're splitting 6 to the police department, 3 to fire, so we're getting 2 compared to the 1 for Winston, so just keep that in mind.
We're a little bigger.
We're bigger.
Yeah, well, yeah, of course, but. And also I'd like to say that I was on that committee also, but there's so many cities in this state that is doing the same thing, so it's not anything new. Several in our area, are doing it. So it's a statewide thing.
I get it, but I still think it should be something that the city should vote on. We went through this with fire. I understand where we are. I mean, my vote's gonna be yes either way, because I know where we're going to be. But I'm not doing my job unless I say any new imposed fee, I think should go to a vote. An election vote. I mean, if we were raising rates on a fee we already have, I understand, but this is a new fee that we're implementing for a service. And I don't like the idea of the city council implementing fees without. Public.
Something was said about that at that meeting. Can you clarify that?
I know that
Or maybe
we wanted to make sure that once the ordinance was put into place, that there was an open line of communication, obviously, because people, either aren't invested to read it or aren't involved in city councils. And so that when they see the new fee, they're gonna call me because it's gonna say public safety fee. And then, of course, I'll be prepared to take every one of those phone calls and explain exactly what we need to do. If there's an outpouring, which I highly doubt. But if there is, then, I'd hold a workshop, a town hall, whatever it takes to get that information across. Because just like the LOC, they pretty much say 62% of the people living in a community think the government is fully funded and everything's fine. Because they're just not aware of what's actually going on in the government of their city. And then there's a few percentage that are. So that's kind of where we're at with the transparency part of it, and just trying to educate people as the calls come in, if they do. Like Winston's case, they didn't have anybody. They understand where we're at. Measures 5 and 50 is what they voted on, and that stuck us in a 1997 assessment. And so everybody knows every year inflation's more than that. So eventually it's going to catch up, and it did. And here we are.
I can't remember if Chief Scardy talked about this at the meeting. Did you guys do a public thing before you put it out there?
Yeah, I believe, it's okay, Mayor, I believe that they put it in their utility bill. We did put it out to public we broadcasted it quite a bit. The only correction that I have with Chief, we had like 6 people in the community that complained. Other than that, it was full support. Everyone knows what happened with our economy, and everyone knows that it's this time in small communities can't afford to run a police department without doing something. And the chief is right on. It's gonna at least solid up his budget quite a bit to do this. So it's really important.
And Chad, I see that you have your hand up, just 1 second. There's a couple things that my thoughts are is, first, this is a little bit more time sensitive as well, of waiting for it to come to a vote, which is not till potentially the end of the year, and then implementing it, where right now we're almost behind the curve of getting the funding. And that's the other thing is we're elected here to make some of these decisions for the people that elected us. And so I think it's something that we need to make a decision on a little more timely than waiting for an election. And like the chief said, he could, if he does get a lot of questions, and it seems like we need to put more information out. We could have more meetings at a later date. And Chad, go ahead with your question or comment.
Hi, so I just wanted to request.
You're on mute, hold on.
No, he's not muted.
Can you hear me? Can't hear
Can
me?
you hear us, Chad? We can't hear you. Well, that's probably best for all of us.
That speaker's on, has to be on mic.
Does he know Americans?
Hear me now?
The playback though.
Oh.
Isn't it?
None of us do.
Can you hear me
Chad,
now?
can you talk? No?
Nope.
No,
Can you call in on Jerry's phone?
Can you click?
And then you could put it
He's
up. to the
calling
mic.
me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Give me a second here. Are you there?
Yeah, sorry, everybody. So, just wanted to request that in section 3.18030 D as in David, we have the fee commencing in May of 2025, which was what was originally proposed when there was going to be an emergency and the ordinance taking effect immediately. But because you won't actually have a second reading until after that date, the version that we had proposed had this taking effect in July 1st of 2025. So you would want to amend that language in 3.18030 D to say July 2025 instead of May.
Anything else, Chad?
Nope, that's it.
All right, thank you.
So that's something else we could do is put a notice in the water bill or, and also on like the website saying this is something having to see what kind of responses we get back as well.
I'm okay with it. Like I said, I've been through this with the fire department. I know exactly where we are. I'm doing my job.
I appreciate that. Okay, any other discussion?
I think I mentioned this in the meeting. I think this city as a whole is very supportive of our police and fire. I've just seen that for years. And I think people understand what's needed. And we know everything's going up right now, unfortunately, but anyway.
Training especially, that's what the fire department's problem. Personnel and training. I'm sure you guys are probably in the same boat, if not worse.
Okay, let's vote.
Counselor Sarnoski?
Yeah.
Counselor Smalley?
Yes.
Counselor Hamilton?
Aye.
Counselor Whitaker?
Aye.
Counselor Woods?
Aye.
Mayor Sumner?
Aye.
Motion carries.
On to budget committee appointment, staff report.
So Mayor and councilors, it's being asked to consider filling the vacancy on the budget committee. We received one application from Richard Hancock. We have a term ending December 31st, 2025. We actually have two that are both for that date. So it's being asked to approve or deny the suggested motion for appointing Richard Hancock to the budget committee. And the suggested motion is to appoint Richard Hancock to the budget committee with a term ending December 31st, 2025.
Is Richard, are you here? Do I have a motion?
Make a motion to visit Richard Hancock, he's volunteering.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Vote.
Counselor Sarnoski?
Yes.
Counselor Smalley?
Aye.
Counselor Hamilton?
Aye.
Counselor Whitaker?
Aye.
Counselor Woods?
Aye.
Mayor Sumner?
Aye.
Motion carries.
On to engineering, design and construction management contract award, staff report.
Mayor, Council, Christy Gilbert, Community Development. So we're finally to a point that the Senate Bill 1530 of the 2024 Oregon legislative session that's being administered by Business Oregon, the $2.85-ish million award is we're ready to issue that award for the engineering, design and construction management contract. We advertised, put out a request for proposals on January 22nd and 27th. For the engineering, design and construction management services, we received 3 proposals by the March 5th deadline. We moved forward with the interviews and negotiation processes. And with that, the Civil Solutions Engineering is who we are requesting you award that contract to. This is for the services will include design, specifications, bid process, and the construction management. So then when it comes to the construction of this infrastructure, that engineer will help facilitate and get all the design specs and everything into the contract documents. So we would then ask you award the contract to Civil Solutions Engineering LLC in the amount of and not to exceed $582,208. It's a big project.
And just to clarify, those funds come out of the grant that's being received through Business Oregon, correct?
Correct, and this is a reimbursement grant, so we pay out of pocket and then we submit our reports for those reimbursements.
Do I have a motion?
Make a motion that we award a contract to Civil Solutions Engineering in the amount and not to exceed $582,208 for engineering, design, construction management for Oak Street infrastructure improvement project.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Were the other bids even close?
Yeah, we actually had another company that scored very close, and this one tipped the scale. The other one was not quite as up there.
Is this one local?
Yes.
Yes. Yep. Local is in Sutherland? or-
Yep.
Okay.
And is very familiar with the project. So this is the engineer that's been working on the project this far.
All right, let's vote.
Counselor Sarnoski.
Aye.
Counselor Smalley.
Aye.
Counselor Hamilton.
Aye.
Counselor Whitaker.
Aye.
Counselor Woods.
Aye.
Mayor Sumner.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Under purchase approval of the fire department ladder truck. Chief.
Mayor and Council, Deputy Chief Scott McKnight, we're asking you to move forward with the purchase of a 2019 HME 80-foot aerial from Greenwood Lake Fire Department in New York for $700,000, and then we were asking for an additional $25,000 for shipping, relabeling it, new radios. And this will replace our 1992 Pierce ladder that's simply right now is out of service due to a failed ladder test, cracks in the main ladder beam. We have tried over the last 5 to 6 years writing grants to get a new ladder. A new ladder truck would cost the city $1.5 million. So this truck being 5 years old will serve the city for the next 25 years.
A very low mileage.
Yeah, 7,000 miles on.
So you guys will drive it back?
We will have it shipped back. It will cost $9,800 to have it shipped back by Apparatus Movers, which they're licensed and bonded and.
Good.
So Tammy, could you talk a little bit about financing of it?
Yes, thank you. Tammy Trowbridge, Finance Director.
Actually, do we need to have a motion on first before we do this or?
Probably.
or
Probably.
is it- okay. Can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the purchase of the big fire truck.
I'll second that.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Tammy Trowbridge, Finance Director. We had the complete financing arrangement isn't in this because we were still waiting for some responses when this went to print as a packet. But as it turns out, I made several different inquiries and staff, Jerry and I conferred on this, and if you guys were in favor of this, we felt that a 10-year lease to purchase would be more sustainable payment-wise than a shorter term, 7-year. And most of the people that I talked to only wanted to do a 7-year agreement for used equipment. But Umpqua Bank came in with a great offer. They will carry it for 10 years, and they originally came in at 5.3%, but when I asked them for if that was their best rate, they came in at 4.95. So we feel like it's it's actually more competitive than any of the other rates that were for 7 years. So they really sharpened their pencil on that.
So are we able to include approval of this, including that financing?
I would appreciate it if you would include that Umpqua Bank financing proposal in your motion tonight, if you're going to move forward with that.
And how would we finance this? Would that be included in like maybe that $3 public safety fee?
Well, I believe that, so I had already ratcheted down my first cut of the budget, the amounts that were going to the reserve funds for the equipment. But there would still be enough set aside in there to make that payment. There's enough in that reserve fund for fire to make 3.5 of those payments as it is. So I believe that the $90,000 payment will be, it's sustainable for 10 years.
Thank you.
And yes, this will help them have other equipment and vehicles, that public safety fee.
Okay. Yeah. So do we need to adjust our motion?
I believe if you could add to it the financing with Umpqua Bank, that statement would be sufficient.
Did you do the initial motion?
Oh, yeah, so, and adding the financing.
Okay. And the second?
That was the second.
Oh, you want to, I think I seconded it. You want to second?
Yes, I'll second exactly what he says.
Okay, all right. Any discussion on that? Any other discussions? Okay, let's vote.
Counselor Sarnoski,
Yes.
Counselor Smalley.
Aye.
Counselor Hamilton,
Aye.
Counselor Whitaker.
Aye.
Counselor Woods,
Aye.
Mayor Summer.
Aye,
Motion carries.
thanks, Chief. I tried to offer to drive it back and they wouldn't let me. Under reports, business license update. Pat.
Mayor, Council, Pat Lynch, Library Director, Livability Services. You have been provided the latest quality thinking of the group assigned to dig into business licensing, which included Lisa and Sean and our gone but not forgotten Gary Daigle. And Jamie was probably one of the main researchers in this. We looked at a number of different cities, as you know. And what you have here is our best thinking in terms of a proposal for business licensing. We also believe that this may be something that instead of managing this tonight, unless you think it is so sterling that it needs to be approved without comment, it might be worthy of a workshop where each of these individual concerns could be addressed specifically and at length, and we could get a consensus from the council on how to craft this. It will also require some work on the behalf of our city attorney and coordination with the police department. But we think what we presented to you is a reasonable method of going forward with this. And I think everyone in the group agreed that the fee schedule that we've got in front of you is fair and not, we wanted to make sure it wasn't a significant burden for anybody. But following through on this, we continue to believe that in the interest of public safety, in terms of enhancing the vibrancy of our downtown business community, making sure our zoning provisions are followed properly, as well as being able to provide information to potential new businesses who might want to know how many restaurants are in town, or how many secondhand shops are in town, or how many supermarkets we have. We could provide them with accurate information that would be helpful both to the city and to them. So we are curious as to your reactions to this. If there is more work to be done on our part, we're willing to do that. Or if you'd like to schedule a workshop and dig into this kind of piece by piece and make some decisions, that would be great.
I like the idea of a workshop because one of the big areas that I had some questions about was the background checks and interesting thoughts on like convictions and what this all meant of
I have the same concern.
of like a felony, misdemeanor, registered sex offenders, DUIs. Are we eliminating people having a business license because they have a Dewey or, you know, things like that. It wasn't real clear and where do we go from here? Someone has a misdemeanor or someone has a felony from 30 years ago, are we gonna deny them? I mean,
Well,
there's a lot of questions. Where do we start and where do we stop?
One of the things that I know Chad has a real concern about this too. One of the things we talked about at our meeting was that in my position as the director of the library, we have done background checks on over 200 volunteers over the last 6.5 years. We've had one come back with any question on it, which was resolved quickly without any public fanfare, and that volunteer ended up serving for a number of years. So I'm not sure what to expect. I would not think poorly of our business community. It wouldn't surprise me if we presented this and ran it out and saw nothing in the background checks of concern, but exactly how that's played out is important. The verbiage is important. Who has control and access to that information is important. And those are certainly some of the things we would want to talk out in a workshop and maybe even with public input, because Gary was one of the ones that came forward very clearly that is concerned about how this will impact the business community. And we don't want this to have the smallest impact as possible in a negative way. We want this to be a good thing. So what is your pleasure?
We don't want to discourage someone who may have gone to jail and is turned their life around to open a business. I mean, although, and then it depends on the business, you know, obviously you don't want someone that has a certain criminal background to open up a certain business, but maybe another business that doesn't affect that, you know?
Right,
So,
like we said, the group that has control of that information, and I would think it would start with the police chief.
probably.
Who probably has the experience to know when something's in someone's background that is deeply concerning.
Right.
And then, you know, it would probably be elevated to a group with maybe the mayor and the city manager and the police chief get together and discuss it. But that's a decision, one of the key decisions that the council really has to weigh in on.
So do we want to have a workshop on this?
Sure.
Okay.
We'll put together some dates at our staff meeting tomorrow and get back.
Okay.
Very good. Any other questions? Thank you.
Executive recruiting proposals, scoring results.
As you know from the last meeting, we asked each of you to review the 5 executive firms for the city manager recruitment process and score them accordingly. The mayor has asked me to get references for the top 3 firms, which I've compiled, and she has requested that the two of us go over those results and work on the next steps. The top 3 firms that we had based off of scoring were Prothman, Jensen, and GMP.
Which one was the Texas one? I can't remember.
SGR, I think.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Our hopes will be to make a recommendation of one next meeting
Out of the top 3.
out of these top 3, yes. Okay.
I was surprised there was only one Oregon.
There's one Oregon and then one of them's Oregon and Washington.
Yeah, but I mean,
They do a lot.
established.
On the city manager report. Okay. Council comments. Remember, monthly meeting time is limited. Please ask questions or make statements that are likely to benefit the group. Individual comments and questions that can be handled on a one-on-one basis should be handled outside the meeting. Councilor Sarnoski. Councilor Smalley.
The new improvements on the downtown little businesses there is really nice. Come a long ways last couple of months. So yeah, that's it.
Great. Councilor Hamilton.
That's pretty much about what I have. I want to congratulate Summer. Do I count your husband in on that?
No.
Summer McKnight, she opened up the Salty Heifer. And today was their grand opening. So we want to wish them well and say yay for the downtown.
Yeah.
Council President Whitaker.
I would like to commend our police chief for putting in a lot of hours on a lot of different things. Starting with the building across the street and going into all these other things that we've talked about. I just, thank you.
And then working among the mess.
Councilor Woods.
I have no words tonight.
Are you okay?
Yes, congratulations, Summer. Your grand opening was really successful today. There was a lot of people and it was very fun. Good job on that. And downtown is looking awesome with all of our buildings being redone. It's beautiful. And it looks like they renamed the bookstore called Reading the Room. And it should be opening soon, I'm hoping. So we'll have a new bookstore in town.
Nice.
So that's exciting. I think that's about it for me. So on to public comment. The purpose of public comment is to allow citizens to present information regarding items off the agenda. Time limit of 3 minutes per citizen shall apply. I think it's Matt. I can't quite read. Is that correct?
My name is Matt Straw, I'm at 805 Valley Vista. My comment question is, there's a few of us here tonight, on Valley Vista Southside Road, the slide that happened there. Our properties, we kind of want to know a little bit more as to what's happening, what's the plan? Has the person who owns the property underneath our properties where a lot of the slide happened, have they been even notified? That's where we sit. There's a lot of confusion going on and a lot of concern. And a lot of scared. That's all I got.
Thank you. So if there's any questions during the city council, then that is something that goes to our city staff. And if it's something that they can answer, they will get back to you, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. Have we get any other? Okay. All right, that's it. Thank you.